Tony. So, PhD Tony, thank you so much for coming back to Modern Day Debate. The floor is all yours.
Just give me a moment to share.
No worries. This is a good time for everybody to hit the like button and share this out in the lovely contentious spaces you like having these debates. We appreciate everybody at Modern Day Debate and everybody in the live chat. Sorry for a little bit late here starting up, but Tony, I'm going to start your timer right now.
Okay. All right, so flat earthers often say that they can't see curvature. They tend not to know what curvature is. In a mathematical sense, curvature refers to the angle of change in angle of the tangent vector or the normal vector per unit of distance moved. We see this across Earth. For instance, if we have observers that are equally spaced, the angle to distant objects changes at a uniform rate of 0.00157 radians per kilometer. This is 1 over radius, which is exactly what should be observed on us if the Earth were a spheroid of radius 6,371.2 kilometers. This is not what should occur on a flat Earth. On a flat Earth, uniform changes in distance from the ground point of a celestial object would not result in uniform angular changes because the tangent is not a linear function. We also observed the effects of curvature in the first part of an object that comes into view is the top. The last part of an object that comes into view is the base. The base is the first to obscured. This again is exactly what we see. This feeds into the flat Earth claim that we see too far. Normally, this requires anomalous viewing conditions. If how far you see depends on viewing conditions, then it does not reflect geometry, it reflects viewing conditions. Flat Earthers often claim that the appeal to refraction is some sort of get-out-of-jail-free card that globers invoke. Nonetheless, they themselves invoke refraction to explain phenomena like sunlight on the other side of clouds, which requires that light refract in exactly the opposite sense than is physically plausible, which is to say towards the less dense medium. The other observational evidence that flat earthers like to rely on is laser reflections. They argue that because a laser is received at a mirror at some distance away, therefore the Earth can't be flat because otherwise it would have missed. What they're leaving out of this analysis is dispersion of the laser beam. The beam spreads out over distance, and so this experiment cannot distinguish between the Earth being flat and the Earth being curved. So let's move on to a data set where you can distinguish between the Earth being flat and the Earth being curved. So if we have 2 points on Earth's surface, we know their latitudes, therefore we know their distance from the North Pole. We know their longitude, so we know the angle they subtend at the North Pole. From this data, we can construct the triangle that they would form, that would form from these parameters if the Earth was flat, and we can calculate the distance between the 2 points and their heading. Similarly, we can do the same on a spheroidal Earth. We construct a spherical triangle and we solve for the distance. And the distance we get using this is the angular separation in degrees times 111 meters or 69 miles. And this is exactly what is observed on Earth. The accuracy of the spheroidal distance formula is a death knell for flat Earth. It tells us that the distance from Mawson Base in Antarctica to McMurdo Base in Antarctica is about 3,000 kilometers. We can confirm this by looking at earthquake data. Here we're looking at arrival times for the Macquarie Rise earthquake from 2004. We see that at 6 minutes after the earthquake, it hits Antarctica. And then 5 minutes later, it will hit the other side of Antarctica. On the right-hand side, you can see what this would look like on a flat Earth, and you can see that blue signal on the opposite side of the disk from where the earthquake occurred within 11 minutes. This is physically implausible. Another prediction that flat Earth makes is that the distance subtended by a fixed longitude distance must increase as you move southwards. The globe Earth predicts that this distance will decrease as you move away from the equator. We can test this. We can look at east-west railway lines. These are physical objects that are whose length is measurable. We can look at Kalgoorlie-Takula part of the Trans-Australian railway network, and we can see that the track separation of 1,280 kilometres is very close to the spherical distance, but that its longitude separation is 13 degrees. We can work out, therefore, that a degree of longitude along this track is 98.5 kilometres, which is less than the length length per unit of longitude between Jacksonville and Pensacola. So why is the southern hemisphere distance per unit longitude shorter in the southern hemisphere than it is in the northern hemisphere? This directly contradicts a flat Earth. Our distance measurements are confirmed by every flight path, by every intercontinental ship navigation. We have been using spherical formulations for intercontinental ship travel for over 300 years. Here we have a ship manual from the 17th century. We can also confirm our distance measurements by looking at submarine cables. Here, for instance, we've got the submarine cable from Sydney to Seattle, and we see that the cable length is a little bit longer, as would be expected, than the shortest great circle distance. We can look at the propagation. We can look at the propagation of earthquakes. They propagate out in circles. They and converge on the antipodal point in a circle. We can look at Rayleigh waves. They spread out from the epicenter. They get received, then they go all the way around the Earth. They get received from the other direction. Then they cross over again. They get received a third time. And for large earthquakes, this can happen multiple times. I'm just going to eat into Peter's presentation time just to show this this presentation. Here we have earthquake data from Western US earthquakes, and we can see for the Sumatra earthquake, we can see that the waves initially come in from the northwest and they move towards the southeast. Over time, the pattern becomes less coherent, and you'll start seeing it becomes a bit muddled. You'll start seeing them all go all over the place. And then eventually, at about the 6,000 second mark, so coming up to 10 minutes after the earthquake, you'll start seeing the waves go from the southeast to the northwest. So exactly as predicted by the globe Earth model. Here you go. You can see the waves propagating from the southeast to the northwest, and then they go back. Okay,
All right.
that's the end of mine.
I think that's fair. You got an extra minute there. I will still give you 6 minutes on the floor, but we're gonna have to tag that to the other side if they would also like an extra minute. So, thank you so much, PhD Tony, for your introductory statement. We do appreciate everybody here at Modern Day Debate. If you're hanging out in the live chat, like I said earlier, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate everybody there. And also, we do Q&A at the end, and that is via the super chats. So if you have a question for any of our speakers that you're seeing here, get that into a super chat, and we will get that read out. So we're going to head over to you, Peter. You got up to 6 minutes to make your opening case.
Okay. Can you guys see this?
We sure can.
Shoot. I'm trying to full screen this. Why is it not? Shoot. Well, I guess I'll just present this way. So, if any of you have seen me argue this before, you know my name for modern flat earthers is robothamists. They pull the broken ideas, or they peddle the same broken ideas they inherited from Samuel Burley Robotham, the first modern flat earther 150 years ago. Robothamism is not like the views of any ancient people. In fact, it's different in almost every conceivable way. Ancient flat earth was an honest ignorance, whereas modern flat earth is denial. And the biggest, most obvious thing they deny is sunset, the moment when daytime ends because the sun becomes occluded behind the horizon. Whether they admit it or not, both my opponents today are sunset deniers, and ancient people would have laughed at them. Why do they deny sunset? Because nowadays we know about time zones. If the sun is always up somewhere and the earth is flat, then at night the sun cannot be underneath us. Um, so instead, modern flat earthers say it goes too far away to see. They try to mix up this occlusion phenomenon with a bastardized and broken version of perspective that some call flurfspective. Meanwhile, any child knows that a level floor under your feet cannot block your line of sight to something that's above you. Even so, let's put some numbers on this. According to actual geometry, an object that recedes horizontally should descend in our vision according to an exact arctangent function. I demonstrated this visually with by holding a flashlight at my waist and walking straight away from my camera until it was gone. And if we overlay frames, you can see the distance between images shrinks dramatically as it recedes. That's how perspective actually works, and it's a consequence of math. Is this what the sun does? No, not even close. I took a 3-hour time lapse of sunset using 2 identical cameras, one with welding glass and one without, while I tracked the sun's position using a compass and sextant. The numbers are powerful, but the footage, but so is the footage. I try to play it here, but it works better when it's in full screen mode. Anyway, if you overlay frames like we did before, the distance between images stays the same the whole time. Case closed. The sun goes below us at night. Pair this with time zones, and you have irrefutable proof of the globe. Now, before the debate, Nathan wanted to exchange a list of arguments with Tony and me. The fact that his and Angel's arguments are going to be off topic today created a bit of discussion. While that was going on, they didn't receive our list of arguments at first, which they apparently started saying was a purposeful tactic, which is hilarious to me because the argument I just presented has literally been my flagship argument since my debut video on this topic over 5 years ago. For months now, it's been pinned at the top of my profile on TikTok, which is Nathan and Angel's Playground. I've had interactions with both of them there, and I know they've seen me present this. It's essentially unchanged because no flat earther has ever meaningfully addressed it. When I hear or see an argument for flat earth that I haven't addressed, my reaction is to study and research and then address it. Why would Nathan and Angel wait for months only to complain about my argument not being spoon-fed to them? Could it be that they have no intention to address it at all and actually just want an excuse? No way. They're far too honest and rational for shenanigans like that, right? Right? Oh, and just a quick PS. You're probably going to say the lights in the sky don't determine the shape of the floor. That flat Earth tagline initially worked as a response to the globe argument, all the planets are spheres, why would Earth be different? Notice how the tagline breaks when applied to my sunset argument. Simultaneous observations of one object, like the sun, from different locations, like here in China, absolutely do let you make deductions about the spatial relationships involved using basic geometry. Nobody would look at these 2 photos of the Statue of Liberty and say they were both taken from the same side of the harbor. You can't just block deductive reasoning by saying a statue far away doesn't determine where your feet are standing. So here's hoping, perhaps vainly, that we get an ounce of better substance today. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Peter, for your introductory statement. We appreciate that. Let's get back to our main screen, though. I think we'll be going back into screen shares shortly. So yeah, we are going to hit it over to the other